22 days and counting. Down is where the Harris numbers are heading in a razor-thin election. How internal falling out between the Biden and Harris team could be their undoing and already doing damage. Kayleigh, we were just talking about this. Great to see you.
Good to be here.
You were filling in for Ainsley on Fox and Friends, getting except for Outnumbered at noon, and your many other appearances. But your thoughts about a possible Biden-Harris schism?
Yeah, it's evident. So interestingly, there was this NBC article that comes out, and we see the Axios report that isn't being denied by the Kamala Harris campaign, that there's this rift and division. If something's not true, you deny it. Well, they did not comment. But the NBC article is interesting because it says in there that Biden was kind of ruffled. His feathers were ruffled when Harris said, "I am not Joe Biden," in the debate. That was one of her most popular lines of the debate. But Joe Biden was a little perturbed about that. And the broader point of the article is whether Kamala is going to distance herself from Biden. And there's this one quote in there from a former aide, current aide, that says she is unfailingly loyal. Well, she may be unfailingly loyal all the way back to her home in California after November, where she can stare at a cardboard cutout of Joe Biden, because unfailing loyalty to Joe Biden and not separating yourself is a way to doom your campaign.
Right, but he thinks he was going to run on his record and win. Remember, he spent all last summer doing what? Selling Bidenomics. He spent $40 million, and the numbers didn't move. But instead of, wow, you know what? We got to sober up and understand maybe what's going on here. Let's look at the numbers. And he didn't. He just was doubled down and got angrier that people weren't realizing how good he was doing.
That's right. I mean, look, you're going to double down on inflation. People see inflation when they go to the grocery store. You're going to double down on these high interest rates, the unaffordability of housing. You're going to double down on all that. He's tried it. It didn't work. If I were Kamala Harris, I would have made a clean break as much as you can, because she voted for the Inflation Reduction Act and the American Rescue Plan, all of these things that caused inflation. I would have made a clean break and said, this is how I differ from Joe Biden on the economy. But she can't do that.
Here is Howard Enton of CNN, and this is maybe part of the reason we're getting these extreme remarks. Cut 13.
Party ID nationally. You go to October, November of 2016, Democrats had a 3-point advantage. You go 4 years ago, Democrats had a 6-point advantage. Look at where we are today, Manu. Republicans with a 1-point advantage. A very different picture, very much mirroring what we see in the party registration numbers in those key battleground states, and Pennsylvania in particular. The GOP leads by a point in party identification right now. The average when the Republican Party loses is the Democrats ahead by 8. When the Republican Party wins, the average party ID advantage for Democrats is 3. Republicans right now, Manu, are doing even better than the average when they win. If there's one little nugget that I think Republicans are really hopeful for, it's this party ID and this party registration data. It really points in a good direction for them and for Donald Trump.
Wow. So when it's on CNN and the only thing the anchor could say is, wow.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know they hate to report this?
Definitely. Harry Enton, what a fascinating data point. So you've got to put all these points together. He says we're seeing voter registration, Republicans with a 1-point advantage. Unheard of. Republicans have it. Then you add that to the polling that came out yesterday, where Trump gained 5 points nationally in the NBC poll, now tied with Harris nationally. You add that to him making gains in the ABC poll and the CBS poll, all of that out yesterday. And then you add that to the posture of the press and the fact that you have Democrats in panic mode, backgrounding to reporters how worried they are, how bad the internal polls are. All of that together would make me feel very good today if I'm Donald J. Trump. Anything can happen, but today I'd be feeling pretty good.
I would. And the thing is, too, is, you know, people want to say This Week with George Stephanopoulos and Meet the Press, Face the Nation. They all like to look at themselves as balanced, you know, because they might have a balanced panel. But the host, Stephanopoulos last week, January 6th, 2020 election, just off his out of his mind, and his anger looks on his face. He's furious. And then to see Martha Raddatz go at it with J.D. Vance like she did, I was just stunned by this. Listen to this exchange, cut 4.
President Trump was actually in Aurora, Colorado, talking to people on the ground. And what we're hearing, of course, Martha, is that people are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened.
Martha.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs.
Okay, let's just end that with they did not invade or take over the city, as Donald Trump said.
I mean, amazing.
We played this morning, but I couldn't believe it. I was watching it.
I still can't believe it. So a handful of apartment complexes filled with American citizens, by the way, working class American citizens, are supposed to accept that Venezuelan gangs are taking them over. Martha Raddatz, who lives in the swamp, would never accept that if this were her residence. But you plebeians, you must accept it. Good for J.D. Vance for challenging the premise of the question. That is how you do an effective interview. And my gosh, how out of touch can you be, Martha?
Right. And the thing is, she kept with the same tone, kissing the butt of the Democrat that came on after. And then the same thing with the panel. She was putting her hand on the scale. But what they are doing now, she's trending on X. And they have a picture of her $2.2 million house. So what if they were coming into your house? Would that be it's only one house. It's only Martha Raddatz's house.
Exactly. It is so deeply, deeply out of touch. But that is what these people are. In New York and D.C., they're so out of touch. They don't understand the Trump movement. They don't understand how you could be upset a gang takes over your house. And by the way, let's talk about the human toll. You know, there shouldn't be one girl who goes jogging that loses her life to someone who should not be in this country. And there have been several, not to mention a young girl, Jocelyn Ngari, who walked to a convenience store and she lost her life too. And we're just supposed to accept that this is the new status quo? No.
I know, Kayla, you're getting ready for your show and you're doing a million things. So I want to play one soundbite from you, from Kimberly Strasslow, conservative columnist on Wall Street Journal. She wrote a column a week and a half ago saying Donald Trump needs a topic sentence. And I had her on Saturday night to recap his live event. I just want to comment on this. Here's Kimberly Strasslow, cut 21.
Americans in their heart, they understand that why are prices so high? Because government spent too much money. Why are we seeing global disorder? Because government hasn't done its job, stood up for America. Why are we seeing crime? Because of border policies that government instituted. You know, and Reagan understood this. And those famous Reagan words, the scariest words ever, is I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And if you are looking to the federal government for solutions, this is the kind of mess that you get, always. It's a time-worn prospect. I'd love to see Donald Trump make that point to undergird his points a little bit more instead of just saying Kamala's terrible, Kamala's awful. It's actually government that's awful, and I think that would resonate with more voters.
Trying to tell you what car to drive, they're telling you what ovens to use. Talk about more practical things, you know, and we're still getting COVID tests in the mail, things to that nature. Do you think she has a point?
Yes. And I mean, Shannon Bream has to ask Tim Walz about if he really wants socialism in America. I mean, that is put so well by Kimberly Strassel. She is brilliant, as always. The only thing I would add to that is for Trump to remind people it will be morning in America again if you give me the presidency. That money that I added to your wallet, $4,379 in 1 year, was the average median household income increased in the year before COVID. I will put money in your pocket. I will make it morning in America again. And here's the threat they represent. You want to contrast your vision, your future, your presidency with the failed presidency of Obama.
So you want to talk, okay, paint how bad it is, but always end upbeat.
Yes.
What could be?
And contrast. Here are your choices, A and B. So put both out and let the American people decide. I bet they choose the Trump years.
So where do you think the campaign is right now? Where do you think the numbers are right now?
Oh, Look, I hesitate to say this because everyone said red wave. That didn't transpire. Anything can happen. But I very much believe, like Mark Halperin, that Donald Trump could win 6 of 7 swing states, if not all 7. And it could be an early night. Who knows? But I just think inflation is going to be such a huge get out the vote operation for everyday Americans to get out and make a change.
Bigger than abortion.
Yes, without a doubt. Abortion matters to a small group of people. Yes, it is the number 3 issue in a lot of the polls, but number 1 and number 2 are immigration and the economy, and Donald Trump wins every day.